Greetings. My name is Russell and I am the overseer of the Grace Private Society. And you have arrived at the first part of a six-part series of videos where I will present to you the six key humanitarian and environmental projects that are a part of the Grace Society mission. And in this presentation, I announce to you our intentions to initiate a project called the Merits Digital Currency. And before I do present to you the aims and objectives of this, our project, I would like to begin with a preamble that outlines our motivations and reasons for creating the Merits Digital Currency. And this will give you a better understanding of the importance and urgency of why we need a new digital currency. And to do that, we need to talk about the illusion of money magic. And what exactly do I mean by money magic? Well, let's start with a statement that might come as a shock to you. We, the living beings of this earth, are all unknowingly and willingly participating in a rigged and corrupt world banking monetary system. And this world banking monetary system is now on the brink of a financial collapse. And I am about to outline to you the foundational issues of this world banking monetary system, and then I will provide a solution, which is the Merits Digital Currency. So let's start with the fact that most nations worldwide are interconnected with a world banking monetary system, where all of the banks within our different nations are franchisees of a world bank. So regardless of what nation that you reside in, and regardless of who you bank with, your national banks are subsidiaries of a worldwide banking monetary system. What is important for you to know is this: the World Banking Monetary System is an organization that operates with hierarchical pyramid schematics that are designed to extract value from economies. Now, what does that actually mean? The term hierarchical pyramidal schematics. It's quite a mouthful. Well, it means that the world banking monetary system is a system of top-down control where the few at the top of the pyramid dictate the banking and monetary policies to the many at the base of the pyramid, where the entire world banking monetary system is the ultimate Ponzi scheme that is organized like the funneling shape of a pyramid that extracts value from the bottom tier majority at the base of the pyramid and upwards to the benefit of the top tier minority. Thus, because value is extracted from the masses of a population, this results in mass inequality to the population of a nation. Inequality equals unfairness. Because the world banking monetary system is a hierarchical pyramid system of value extraction, where people can only gain from the people who lose, this system cultivates predators and parasites, where the financial institutions of that which are part of the world banking monetary system, they operate with predatorial and parasitical mindsets and skill sets, whilst driven with a bloodthirsty greed for money and power. In the ravenous pursuit for money and power, many financial institutions engage with malpractice and have become these legal criminal enterprises, these gambling houses with casino style operations that play with toxic financial instruments and future derivative contracts, whilst betting on and betting against our economies, and whilst financially pillaging the stock markets to extract value. These financial institutions extract much more value than the value that they create and contribute to our societies. They take a lot and give a little. The entire world banking monetary system, with all of its high street banks and financial institutions, are in the business of extracting value. And quite literally, they are in the business of making money from money, because they are wheeling and dealing with a very sophisticated money magic trick. So what is a money magic trick? A money magic trick is a clever sleight of hand technique, because the world banking monetary system has been set up to extract value from the mass populace of a nation, and to do so without them being aware of it, and to do so with them enjoying the spectacle of the trick, with the people of a nation being part of the illusion. And for you to know how this cunning money magic trick works, you need to know how money really works. So let's take a walk back in time for a moment. Many centuries before, entire nations of people traded with gold and silver money. Money back then was hard assets of real value, the real value of real gold and silver. And for safety, the gold and silver was stored in the vaults of banks. And the banks would issue paper notes, these bonded certificates, to their clients to represent the value of gold and silver that they had banked, where those paper notes could be traded because of their redeemable value. And given that it was easier and safer to carry and trade with paper notes, using paper notes soon became a new method of exchanging value, where the paper notes represented the value of gold and silver stored in the bank, where a paper note could be redeemed at the bank for its represented value in gold or silver, the real value. Then over time and through various banking monetary policies and procedures, in other words, these very clever sleights of hand, the gold and silver was removed from circulation and use, and was replaced with debased metal coins and paper notes known as fiat currency. This fiat currency of debased coins and paper notes could no longer be redeemed for its equivalent value in gold and silver. In other words, the real value of gold and silver was extracted out from the economy, taken out of the nation and taken out of the hands of the people, and instead was replaced with worthless coins and paper. It was a neat trick. Then there was another sleight of hand technique. Up until recent years, the worthless money that was minted and printed into circulation was pegged to the equivalent of a nation's commonwealth of gold and silver, which meant that the represented value of the money that we used was on par with the real value. The real value of gold and silver backed its equivalent of the represented value of money. In other words, a nation could never spend more money than it actually had in real value of gold and silver to back it. We had a balanced and fair monetary system. However, the money was soon unpegged from its equivalent value of gold and silver. Unpegged means that the money minted and printed into circulation was no longer backed by its equivalent in gold and silver. And because the money was unanchored to its equivalent in real value, the money therefore was movable and expandable. This means that more money could be printed into circulation and used than the actual gold and silver stored in the depository warehouses of banks. Now, why would we want to create more money than the real value that we have to back it? Well, let's start with the phrase, money makes the world go around. That phrase has been embedded into our psyches. But that phrase is not exactly a true statement. More precisely, money is a tool that helps us to create and trade goods and services. We use money to trade the value of goods and services, where that money facilitates commerce and stimulates economic activity. And so when more money is pumped into circulation and use, we as a nation of people have the money, the liquidity to create and trade more value in terms of goods and services. So the more money that there is in the circulation of an economy, the more economic activity there is of creating and trading value. And furthermore, whenever new money is put into the circulation of a nation, that new money is made available to the people of that nation through bank loans. When people borrow money from the banks create new money. They loan the new money, and that new money is then in circulation and use. And because banks are in the business of loaning money, where those banks loan a principal sum and charge interest on top, those loans are very lucrative business for the banks. And the more money that a bank can loan, the more interest that bank makes, where they make money from money. And when you have a banking monetary system that operates with an endless supply of money, because that money is not pegged or anchored to any limits, the banks can loan and create as much new money as they want. The skies are not the limit of how much the banks can loan. And of course, charging interest on those loans is how they extract value. Then, by another sleight of hand trick, the pot-bellied bankers invented a banking mechanism known as fractional reserve lending, where a bank is able to loan 9 times more value than the actual value that it has on its own balance sheets, which is the equivalent of an apple trader selling 10 apples when they only have 1 apple in stock. How is that even possible? Easy. The banks can print money on demand and necessity. The banks print as much money as they want. The banks can print money out of thin air, just like a magic trick. And by flooding an entire nation with new money in the form of bank loans, the banks can rake in a fortune. But here is where the magic trick gets really sick. And please pay attention to this next part. There is a monumental and systemic flaw with bank loans. Banks loan a principal sum of money plus they charge interest. They charge interest, yet only the principal sum of money is created and put into circulation and use. So, for example, and I will keep it simple, you borrow the principal sum of 10 from the bank, and they charge you interest on top to the sum of 2. So that's 12 in total, and yet they only create the 10 that they have loaned to you. Now imagine that example being played out across an entire nation. That means that there is less money in the economy of a nation than can actually be paid back. And that is because the interest does not exist. Only the principal sum exists. Can you see how much of a monumental flaw that is? And yet, it is all by design. It is all by design of this world banking monetary system. The interest that is charged is a method of extracting value because only the principal sum of money is in circulation. And as the loans are being paid back to the banks plus interest, the money in circulation is forever decreasing. And because the money in circulation is forever decreasing, we need to keep borrowing more money from the banks. In other words, we all live in these debt-based economies where a nation of debt is being serviced with more debt, where a nation is in a cycle of perpetual debt. The world banking monetary system is a debt-based system that extracts value from the interest charged on loans. But nothing compares to the ultimate trick. Because those who pull the levers of this money magic show, and we will discuss who they are soon, they are able to expand and deflate the economy of an entire nation by inflating and deflating the money that is in circulation. In other words, the money supply of an entire nation is manipulated so that interest and value can be extracted from a nation, and done so during both the up and downward cycles of economic activity. The reason that we have boom time periods of economic growth is because the banks inflate the economy with loans to stimulate economic activity. With more money in circulation, there is more purchasing and spending power and thus more economic activity. During these times of increased economic activity, the volume of trade increases and the prices of goods and services increase too. And real value is being created in terms of manufacturing, building and production. Thus, everyone is raking in the money and accumulating hard assets. And with greed being the motivating factor during these cycles of economic upturn, the financial institutions start to engage in reckless lending practices that encourage over borrowing. where people take on more debt than they can handle, where people overcommit and live way beyond their means. And of course, what goes up must come down. And that's when we experience a bust time period of economic contraction. And that's because the banks deflate the economy. They deflate the economy by issuing less bank loans. Less bank loans means that there's less new money that's being put into circulation. And thus, the tidal flow of money has turned and starts to ebb. And yet, the outstanding bank loans of an entire nation must still be paid back, and paid back with the interest that does not exist as money in circulation. And so these existing loans that need to be repaid start to become a vast economic dragnet where the banks start trawling money out of circulation. And remember that the interest does not exist as money in circulation because only the principal sum was loaned out. Therefore, the flow of money in the economy starts to dry up. We experience a receding economy that is often referred to as a recession. In a recession, there is less money to trade with and less money to earn, and thus we experience less income, lower prices, and as a result of a recession, this ebbing and reduction of the money supply, the majority of people start to struggle to earn money, to pay the bills, and service the debts of their outstanding loans. Needless to say, during an economic recession, more and more people start falling into arrears, and then we experience an economic credit crunch that coincides with loan defaults and foreclosures. And this is exactly when there is a period of mass value extraction, where the real value of hard assets like homes, vehicles, machinery, and raw materials, they are repossessed by the banks and then gobbled up at below market price as the entrepreneurial vultures in a feeding frenzy of greed swoop down and pick off the carcass of those who are insolvent and have died of a financial death. And it is during this economic downturn and mass extraction of value that a huge transfer of wealth takes place. And the rich get richer to the detriment of those who get poorer. And all of this, everything that I have just shared with you, it takes place because the world banking monetary system has been designed this way. It is a global Ponzi scheme. After everything that I have just shared with you, you might be shocked, upset, angry, or in a state of disbelief. Or I could be affirming to you everything that you kind of knew, that you had a feeling about, but you just didn't quite know how rigged and corrupt our financial institutions are. And yet, it gets worse. We are all part of a failing world banking monetary system, and here is why. Each time there is an economic depression and market crash, and the financial liquidity of the insolvent banks has gone, or rather disappeared into the magician's back pocket, our governments deem those insolvent banks too big to fail. And then they bail out the banks. This means that they reload the bankrupt banking system with a line of credit. This line of credit is known as quantitative easing. This means that more money is borrowed, or rather magicked, out of thin air and then fed into the playground of the big fortune corporations. The intention of the quantitative easing is to reflate the stock markets, where eventually the solvent and liquid banks can start to trade again, where confidence is soon restored, and then we start to see an increase in loans again that re-stimulates economic activity, and so the value extraction system repeats. What's more is that this so-called quantitative easing goes directly to those at the top of the pyramid scheme. It is a social welfare for the rich, and the general public does not see a direct penny of that huge government bailout. Instead, during the times of economic depression, the people at the base of the pyramid scheme, they must face the austerity measures of a stagnated economy. The people are also lumbered with the bank loans of the quantitative easing, and that debt is added to the growing deficit of the national debt. In other words, through malpractice and malfeasance, the greedy bankers screw over our economy and they get away with it scot-free. And the general public of a nation, who are the unsuspecting participants of this money magic trick, are left paying for the bill, whilst those at the top of the pyramid keep all of the extracted value. They don't suffer the consequences of their actions, and they continue forth with their legal criminal activities. Does that seem right and fair to you? Well, it does not get any more wrong and unfair than the fact that our governments bail out the banks by borrowing more money from the same banks. That is the equivalent of asking a thief to thief from you again. And I guess crazy is as crazy does. Crazy behavior tends to result from desperate measures. And you might be shocked to hear that most nations worldwide, from the UK to the US and all throughout Europe, are desperately bankrupt and in deep debt to the banks. Now, how is it possible for an entire nation to become bankrupt with debt and be in debt to a bank? Well, it's back to that neat old trick of the banks, where they loan a principal sum of money and charge interest on top. When our governments bailed out the banks during a depression in exchange for government bonds, which are IOUs, our governments borrow money from the banks to bail out the banks, of which interest is owed on top of the principal sum. However, only the principal sum is put into circulation, and thus the interest can never be paid back. The governments therefore must keep borrowing more money, and subsequently the national debt keeps increasing, where the entire national financial system is going down a ruinous path of trying to borrow its way out of an unrepayable debt, which is like a drug addict using more drugs to get better. And like I said before, crazy is as crazy does. And it gets crazier. Whenever one borrows money, one enters into a creditor-debtor relationship where the debtor owes to the creditor. And our governments are in a creditor-debtor relationship with the banks that they borrow from. Our governments are obligated by contract to honour and service the debts. And each time that we experience an economic downturn, the government borrows more money from the banks. And each time they borrow more money from the banks require collateral. Collateral is the real value that is used as security to back a loan and safeguards the creditor in the event of a default. And here is what's important for you to know. In recent years, our governments have borrowed so much money from the banks that we've now got to a point where our governments have pledged the real value and assets of the entire nation to the banks. This means that they have pledged the future labour of the citizens, the property and the land of the nation as collateral and bonded surety to the debt that they owe to the banks, where every citizen of a nation has become a bonded surety to an unrepayable and ever increasing national debt that is owed to the banks. And what's more, our nations are in debt to private banks. These are not public owned banks. These are private banks that are registered as corporate businesses with limited liability, and thus they have no real responsibility for the consequences of their Machiavellian banking tricks. Their first and foremost allegiance is to make vast profits that enrich the private owners and shareholders of those banks. They are not in the business for the financial welfare of the people of a nation. And now in this part of the presentation, I will specifically address how this rigged, corrupt and failing world banking monetary system is having a crippling and devastating impact on society at large and to our individual lives, and why we can't continue with this system anymore. And so from herein, I will highlight but just a few of the ongoing travesties that besiege all of us. I will start by saying that in recent centuries, we have experienced vast economic growth and development that has given rise to a culture of commercial beasts. Now, what do I mean by commercial beasts? I mean that people have become work-centric, money-orientated and success-hungry as they lurch forward with headstrong lust into the bosom of money and materialism and all of the lifestyle trappings that come with it. Most people are trapped within a lifestyle of servicing living expenses and debts, stuck within this unrelenting cycle of working to live, working to earn a livelihood where work has become the life of most people, where courtesy of a failing world banking monetary system, we also live in a declining economy where the cost of living keeps going up and the value of money keeps debasing, whilst the wages and incomes stagnate. And thus we have less and less spending and purchasing power. The money just don't go anywhere near as far as it used to. For example, in the era of 1960s Britain, you could afford to buy a whole house and outright for the tidy little sum of £6,500. And nowadays, you could only afford to buy a small car with that. And that example is the result of value extraction. And so the majority of people must work harder, work longer hours, and do so to earn less value, where they struggle to make ends meet and stay afloat. And with little money left over to save, there is little chance of getting ahead, and with little hopes of a prosperous future or to secure a retirement at the end of it all. And there is no end to the stress and worry of financial insecurity, where most people are scrambling around in survival mode, doing their best to win at the money game while struggling to keep up with the bills and debts of being a participant of that game. The lack of money also puts a big squeeze on people's freedoms and choices and becomes this constant pain point in relationships. Also, because it takes money to make money, without additional money, there is little room for people to wriggle out from and rise above their dire and stressful financial circumstances. Then we have the extortionate banking practices of usury. Usury is to loan money out at extortionate interest rates. And to get the finance to buy a home, we have no other choice but to get a mortgage debt from a bank that can charge up to 3 times the principal sum of that mortgage. That is outrageous. Incidentally, the term mortgage in Latin means a death pledge. And this makes sense because to get a mortgage, you must sign away your life for around 30 years. And to pay back that mortgage, you must become locked into the money game as a debt slave to that mortgage. Now, for those who are savvy and lucky enough to survive the multiple economic boom and bust cycles over a 30-year period and keep up with their mortgage payments, they eventually get a house that's all paid for. But it's a long shot. Until then, the bank is the creditor and the real owner of the house. Then there is a huge swath of the population of a nation that can't even afford a home in this overinflated housing market. And so they must spend all of their hard-earned money as a renter that pays off someone else's mortgage. Insult and injury are the words that come to mind. We are all nursing injuries from this life-diminishing and life-hijacking world banking monetary system. Money has become this malignant blight on the minds of humanity that has corrupted our thinking and twisted our souls. The fears, greeds, lacks, needs, and desires that we all have associated to money. These corruptions have darkened people into deceiving, lying, cheating, coercing, and stealing money from others, where brother turns against brother and where families go to war against each other. And whether you are cash rich or cash poor, we are all slaving away for the money, stressing and worrying over it, aching for it, restless because of how much we want or how short we are. Money is always playing on the mind. We can never get away from it and can never quite get enough of it. We are all on the money treadmill, and therefore we never arrive, never land, and never quite make it. We are always chasing after that one more deal, that one more client. We are always on the lookout for the pay rise, a better job or career move, hoping that one day our ship will come in and then we can sail off into paradise. But who are we kidding? Because time is money, and all we have time for is money. And we don't have the time to wait for anything or anyone else. But there is never enough time and there is never enough money. So we are constantly chasing after the illusion of not having enough time or money. The illusion, however, is so real because we can see others enjoying the money. We are seduced and mesmerized and taunted as we salivate over how much success, ease, adventure, and extravagance those lucky ones do have. But we can't have what the lucky ones have. We are trapped underneath a glass ceiling and looking up towards them. And yet we are unable to break through that glass ceiling to have that lifestyle. Those who do break through have sold their soul. They've sold out for the money. Besides, those at the top of the pyramid in their lavish glass houses, they can see us looking up. And they certainly don't want to lose that position. Their position at the top relies upon us being at the bottom. That is how pyramid schemes work. So the carrot of hope is always dangled, and the stick of hard work is what gets the carrot, or so we are led to believe. We are also encouraged in this world banking monetary system to take on some back-breaking debt to further our cause, weighing ourselves down like a good little debt mule. That's said and done, even if we can escape from the working class, even if we can become debt-free and make it, we can never escape from being a commercial beast. At whatever level that we play this money game, and even if we become financially successful, we will spend and squander this precious gift of life in the worship of, working hard towards, and the non-stop worry over how much money we need to earn, to live, to do, and to have all of the things that we desire. One thing is true for us all, that we all desire to live a peaceful and prosperous life. However, in this rigged world banking monetary system, every aspect of life has been commoditized, commercialized, and monetized. We are the only creatures on earth that must pay to use, pay to have, and pay to enjoy the natural resources of earth. And only because we have each fenced off a piece of the earth and slapped a price tag on our piece of the pie. The entire pie has been segmented up and sold off. We now can't do anything unless we pay the price of admission, pay what's due, pay the fee, pay the piper, and pay a toll to those enforcement trolls that are guarding the bridge up ahead. Let's think about the insanity of that. We have been given this wonderful gift of life, but we have to pay to live the gift. What kind of a gift is that, where you must pay for it? A Trojan horse, perhaps? Furthermore, what kind of life is this where you exist to earn money and must earn money to exist? Where it's a catch-22 of you are damned if you don't and damned if you do. Over recent years, our nations have fallen into an economic damnation Because of this value extracting and value diminishing world banking monetary system, we are caught in the thick of it. We are so busy with commerce to pay for our livelihoods that we aren't truly free to enjoy our lives. Just look at what us green-eyed money monsters have done. We've roamed and grazed so hard and so fast into the fields of commercial folly that we've trampled over the last vestiges of our humanity. Collectively, we have been extracting so much value that the landscape of humanity is now barren, where commercial values now exceed community and family values, where competition now exceeds cooperation, where making a profit is more important than the welfare of people, where the advantaged take advantage of the disadvantaged, where the haves do not care for the have-nots. That's because there is no consideration or care in a dog-eat-dog world, where it is each to their own, as we climb up the imaginary ladder of success with one foot pressing down the heads of those below while sticking an elbow into those at the side. Not that it's much fun being a dog in a dog-eat-dog world, where most of the top dogs soon become the old dogs, where they get nothing but a meagre pension for a lifetime of contribution and the worry of affording basic living needs like food and heating. And we've all got that to look forward to unless we make a sharp pivot and we regroom ourselves with the means to thrive in our golden years. And as for the up-and-coming underdogs, the inexperienced youngsters of this world, they struggle with low-paid jobs, crippling student debts, high rental prices, and with little chance of getting on the housing market, whilst they stare down the barrel of a bleak future. And then we have the working class heroes that venture out each day into the battlefield of commerce and into the slogging and slaying grounds of a highly competitive and cutthroat marketplace, doing their best to survive another day. And because we all operate within this economy of declining value, most businesses must continually streamline expenses just to earn profit and stay solvent, where sadly the most profitable returns tend to come from the poor business ethics of quick plus cheap plus perishable plus pleasure equals most profitable. That equation of poor business ethics is what promotes a race to the bottom in terms of standards, quality, and conduct. As a result of the world banking monetary system that has and still is extracting value from our economy, the murky waters of commerce in which people do business, those murky waters have cheapened. We are all drowning in a degradation of the quality of goods and services. Because to keep prices competitive and sales coming in, to gain the value of profit from goods and services, the goods and services themselves are cheapened. And of course, as the truism goes, cheap things are seldom good and good things are seldom cheap. The marketplace is now flooded with cheapened, inadequate, artificial, deficient, short lifespan, shoddy, and addictive goods and services. We now trade more superficiality and less substance. We now demand more stimulation and less nourishment. We are getting more tripe and less steak. And this cheapening of things, this degradation, is no more present than what we see in our local communities that are riddled with vice, where the high streets have become these low streets, these unsightly ghettos that reek of fast food outlets, gambling shops, £1 stores, coffee houses, tattoo parlours, phone warehouses, cheap boozing houses that open at 7 a.m., and convenience stores and sweet shops that sell junk. These businesses are the telling signs of where we are at in terms of our standards. We have become cheapened. We have long forsaken the dignities of loyalty, honour, responsibility, due diligence, and care. Our cultural standards have been trampled in the muck and filth of our dirty money system, where the greed and gluttony for more money and profit has stripped the substance, the goodness, and the virtue out of who we are, what we do, and what we have to offer, where the callousness and cunningness of gross negligence has, with a two-fingered salute, run riot all over the gaff. We have become commercial cowboys. Our gun-slinging methods of shoot to kill, grab what you can and take, I'll be back tomorrow for the rest, has resulted in a nation of predators and parasites. We are all bleeding ourselves dry into an economy of mass hardship, austerity, deprivation, and all of its pathologies. And in doing so, we have contaminated and desecrated the pristine landscapes of this beautiful earth in preference for a concrete commercial jungle, this industrialized overlay that is extracting and extorting and polluting the natural resources of this earth. Natural resources that we rely upon for sustenance and for life. And if you care to read or watch my presentation about our project called Suntrimo Estates, you will come to learn that we are on the precipice of an irrecoverable ecological destruction and in the throes of food poverty, all of which stems from the Ponzi scheme mechanics of the world banking monetary system that is devouring our life force, degrading our way of life, and destroying our earth. And so now we have arrived at the apocalypse of a psychological, environmental, and socio-economical default. We have defaulted because we can no longer keep deflating and reinflating the economic balloon of our economies, because the integrity of the world banking monetary system is completely compromised and beyond redeem. What we now need is an entirely new world banking monetary system, which brings me on to this very important disclosure. Right now, as we speak, preparations are being made for a new world banking monetary system. And it is the owners and controllers of this current world banking monetary system that are behind the scenes putting the new system into place. The owners and controllers are an alliance of world organizations such as the United Nations, the World Bank, the World Economic Forum, and the International Bank of Settlements, which is the central bank of central banks. And these organizations, they know that the current world banking monetary system is defaulting, and thus these self-proclaimed global leaders of those aforementioned organizations, they have been sounding the trumpets of economic reform. For those who are awake and aware, a global economic reform is being touted via the much publicized taglines of the Great Reset, a fourth industrial revolution, along with the proposal of a new central bank digital currency. They want to wipe the dirty slate clean and start again. But start with what? A new world banking monetary system that is another hierarchical pyramid scheme that extracts value from our economies and causes mass inequality and hardship? Do we want another world banking monetary system that advocates predatory and parasitical trading practices, that pits human against human? Do we want another world banking monetary system that is designed and controlled by the same leaders that have mismanaged this one? Do we want to be deceived again by another money magic trick? We have to realize that the current world banking monetary system is just a magic show. It isn't real. And yet we have all been entrained to believe in the illusion that money has value and that money makes the world go round. This illusion does quickly shatter when we acknowledge the actual factual truth about real value. As we have already established, we no longer use money that is backed by the real value of gold and silver. We instead use what is known as a fiat currency. Fiat currency is the debased metal coins, worthless paper notes, and now the digital numbers that we see on a screen. This means the so-called money in our pockets or in the bank is actually worthless. What gives this money the illusion of value is that we can purchase things of real value with that money, like food, clothes, cars, and houses. And so the paper notes, coins, or electronic digits in our bank accounts, they are just a representation of real value. We use that money as a currency to represent the real value of the goods and services that we create and exchange, that we make, buy, and sell. The paper notes, coins, or electronic digits are a method that allows us to exchange different types of value, and that we can sell our goods and services to earn currency and then exchange that currency to purchase different goods and services that we need to live. In other words, the currency is just a tool, just a method for how we can trade the real value of goods and services, where that currency only but represents the value of those goods and services. The sheer brilliance of using a currency as a represented value is that the currency facilitates the ease and effectiveness of trading different goods and services. The currency is a measure of value that we apply to a unit of real value. And so by using different denominations, for example, £1, £5, £10, etc., we can set prices and margins. The currency allows us to measure the value of our goods and services. And what exactly are goods and services? Goods are the products that we make from the natural resources of Earth. Services are our creative labour, knowledge and skills that we apply to make or do something, where we use our creative efforts to manufacture the raw materials of natural resources to produce goods and services. The real value in this world comes from what we create as individuals. We are the value creators. We create the value in this world. The value is not in the currency or the money that we use. The currency is just a representation of the real value that we create. The currency just allows us to exchange different goods and services between parties. However, the banks have become the middlemen of that exchange. Because we use their currency, we must loan that currency from them so that we can create our real value and then pay them back with interests and charges for the privilege of using their currency, which allows the banks to parasite value from off the backs of our creative life force, from our life's work. The banks can also control when and how much we create. You see, the banks control the flow of a nation's currency, just like the banks of a river control the flow of water, water being a current. We could say that the flow of water is the life force of energy, of human consciousness and its creative power. And because we use the currency of the bank, they therefore control the flow of our life force and creative power. And the banks do decide when we can borrow and how much we can borrow. And this limits our creative power. A lack of currency has a tight grip on the creative capacity of our life force. If we had more currency, we could create more things. We simply can't create without the money or the currency that facilitates that creation, whereby the scope and quality of our lifestyles are restricted and our future is determined by how much currency we can or cannot get. The banks control the currency that controls our life force. If, however, we had unrestricted access to currency, we would have unrestricted potential to create. And when we get to the absolute bombshell of everything that we have explored in this presentation, then everything that I have said so far will make sense. And here is the absolute bombshell. The banks don't loan anything of real value. Again, the banks don't loan anything of real value. All the banks do is loan us a worthless currency that is just a representation of real value. The banks loan us a worthless currency. The real worth is in the real value of what we create and exchange as individuals, not in the worthless currency, which is just a medium that we use to trade with. And when we get a bank loan, We are getting a payment in advance. The bank is loaning us an advance payment that is set against what we will create and earn in the future, and they are charging us interest for that advanced payment. And if the banks don't create or loan real value, then what exactly are the banks doing? The banks are nothing more than an accounting service. Those digits that we see in our bank account apps or that are printed on our bank statements are nothing more than a recording of what we've earned and spent. They are representations of the value that we are creating and trading in the real world. The banks are recording our transactions of the goods and services that we create and exchange in the real world. That is why bank accounts have a credit and debit ledger. The banks are accountants that keep an electronic record of credits and debits that merely represent the real value of what we trade in the real world. We are the true creators of real value. The banks have and give no real value, and therefore they have no real power. The banks only have the illusion of value and power because we have been playing along with the illusion, because we did not know that we was being tricked by a money magic show. The world banking monetary system is one giant illusion that has hijacked and controls the real value of our creative life force and the natural resources of Earth, whereby the system manipulates and controls our life force and those natural resources, that restricts our ability to create and provide a more prosperous life, that extracts and extorts value from us. And we have been unknowingly and voluntarily giving our consent to participate in this rigged, corrupt and failing world banking monetary system. And so nobody is to blame. No one body is responsible and accountable for this bad system. We are all part of it. We are all playing within it. And we all, in some way, benefit from using it. And as long as we continue to be a part of it, we must be at peace with it. Being at peace with it, however, does not mean that we should continue to participate in this failing world banking monetary system. We do have the free will to stop participating. And we do have the creative power to bring into existence a new currency, a new system of value exchange that guarantees peace and prosperity for all of those who participate in that new currency. And so now this is the part of the presentation that I introduce to you, the Merits digital currency. As the overseer of the Grace Society, I do formally announce and give our official seal and sanction and give notice in this, our official clarification of project presentation, that it is our goodwill and intent to create the Merits digital currency. The Merits digital currency is a community-based system of value exchange, where the real value of goods and services will be represented in a format of digital merits, where digital merits are a unit of currency, where real value is created and exchanged between men and women, and that value will be determined by the merits of their deeds. so that value is accrued where the merits are due. The merits digital currency places value into the merits of good deeds. By creating and exchanging value on the merits of good deeds, we will incentivize the use of best resources and best practices and inspire creative ingenuity, innovation, and excellence. And thus, through good deeds, we will generate increased value and returns. The Merits digital currency is a system that encourages and benefits those who cooperate, collaborate, and contribute to their communities, where exchanging value based upon the merits of good deeds will encourage the virtues of goodwill, honour, trust, loyalty, and compassion towards each other, and thus improve the conducts of how we trade goods and services, where people will recognise and respect each other for the merits of who they are, what they do, and how they give, where the act of being good will inspire goodness in others, because goodness is good, and we all aspire to act, look, and feel good. I also declare that the Merits digital currency is not a banking system and not part of the established world banking monetary system. Neither does our Merits digital currency operate within nor as part of the public domain or public jurisdiction. The Merits digital currency is independent to, separate and distinguished from all and any financial systems within the public domain. I do hereby assert that the Merits digital currency does not and will never be part of any banking institution. We do not contract with any public banks, private banks, central banks, financial institutions, middlemen, money changers, third-party creditors, or any other corporate entity in the public domain. It is also important to know that neither will our Merits digital currency challenge, disrupt, or cause harm to any public or corporate financial entities. And neither will the Merits digital currency be indebted. It will not be in bonded servitude, not insolvent, not bankrupt. It does not loan or borrow and does not trade in public currency or money. It is completely separate. Neither do we use or engage with any mechanism of value extraction. And the integrity of the Merits digital currency is and can never be diminished, extorted, distorted, manipulated, taxed, or held collateral to the security of another. The Merits digital currency is a fully solvent system. It is a system that creates, returns, accrues, compounds, and protects the value of all members who participate in the use of this private currency. The Merits digital currency is for private members only that prefer to do lawful enterprise that is based upon the principles of trust and equity, where private members of the Grace Society will operate within the protection of private contract association, where each member that participates in the Merits digital currency is self-responsible, self-determining, self-directive, self-generating, and self-managing of their own value creation. And from here on in, I will now outline for you some of the key functions and benefits of the Merits digital currency. First and foremost, the Merits digital currency is a parity-based system. A parity-based system is a system of balance, where 1 unit of measure equals 1 unit of creation. This means that there will never be more or less represented value than real value. This means that the currency will never be inflated or deflated, where a merit will always be worth a merit, where the value of what is created will never diminish. And therefore, the system will always be debt-free, stable, and equitable in balance. With a balanced system, we can create from the foundations of financial stability. This system of value exchange will never waver or fall or subside. This means that for all of those who shall use the Merits digital currency, they will be part of a stable and secure community. The Merits digital currency is also a value advance system. This means that participants of our digital currency can self-hypothecate value and self-create currency. Hypothecate means to determine the future value of what one creates and receive that value today in which to create the future value, where the digital currency is paid in advance so that one can obtain the resources needed to facilitate one's creative power to produce goods or services. The value of those future goods and services is what is advanced today. This value advance system means that there will never be a lack of currency, that our creative capacity will never be restricted, on the basis that we self-advance the currency that we need to make a purchase. This means that we don't need a middleman in which to borrow from. This means that there is no debt, no monthly payments, no interest, and nothing to pay back. The next benefit is that the Merits digital currency is a merit added value system. This system of value exchange is based upon the merits of good deeds. The digital currency is represented as units of merits, where added value can be gained through the merits of good deeds. With each exchange of goods and services, there is added value that can be applied to the cost. This added value is on a sliding scale of determining value, where higher standards of goods and services equals more value accrued. The value accrued is in a form of digital currency, in the form of digital merits. An added value is also gained for performance consistency, where on the basis of continual good performance of exchanging goods and services, value is further increased and compounded over time. So rather than be like VAT, which is a value added tax system, where value is extracted out of our pockets, our digital currency has an MAV, which is a merit added value system, where the value is put into our pockets, because it is only right that the creator of the value retains and accrues that value as the rightful benefactor. The merit added value will be subject to an easy and simple value rating system, where each participant of an exchange in goods and services can rate the merits of another participant, and thus we each appraise the value of each other, We hold each other accountable for how we trade with and treat each other. This method of accountability, where we hold each other accountable to the merits of how we treat each other, will incentivize the virtues of care, consideration, and responsibility towards how we exchange goods and services. Furthermore, the Merits digital currency is an asset-backed system. This means that for every one merit of digital currency that is created within the system creates another merit of digital currency of equal value. It will create value that mirrors value. The additional value created is on par and in balance with the system. The additional value is then set aside for investment into community projects that create the real value of hard assets that return more value. And those hard assets will underwrite and support the system. And so, as each participant of the Merits digital currency creates value in their own lives, they also create additional value for their community. These local community projects will be focused on creating new infrastructure, buildings, recreational facilities, education centres, health care centres, and landscapes that provide free natural resources. These value yielding assets will see a return to surplus, providing raw materials and sustenance for the shared beneficial use of a community, rejuvenating and regenerating each community, and whereby these projects enhance, improve, and evolve the quality of our lives. The Merits digital currency will also provide a capital amount. This means that we start solvent and liquid with currency. Each member receives a capital amount of currency as a welcome gift to the prosperity of life. This capital amount will facilitate the purchase of a new home, transportation, and provide initial liquidity to create goods and services that generate more value. The capital amount will stimulate trade, and of course, with creative power and capital comes great responsibility. And so this capital amount is subject to each member completing a certification in financial management and responsible trading, and the covenant of contributing a special project that will improve our lives and replenish the earth. And the benefits do not stop there. The Merits digital currency will provide a monthly stipend. Our new system provides a monthly allowance sum that covers basic needs and living expenses for shelter, food, travel, energy, education, and health. This removes the burdens of survival by providing a basic level of security and comfort so that the members of our digital currency can establish their true life purpose and direction so that they can best create value and contribute to society. This monthly stipend also ensures that our youngsters, our elders, the infirm, disabled, and incapacitated are provided for and taken care of. The Merit's digital currency also provides a financial education. Each member gets full access to the Merit's University that provides knowledge and skill sets in trading practices, financial management, and wealth generation, ensuring that we have a financially astute and responsible members that know how to exchange and secure value in good deeds. And thus, we maintain the integrity of our system. The Merit's digital currency is also available for distant as well as close proximity trade. This will be an interconnected system of currency that permits trade in local communities across nations and continents so that members can have access to a wide range of goods and services. The Merit's digital currency will also be a private network. We operate the system on a digital blockchain platform with an end-to-end encrypted service where the operations and data of our system are separate to and private from the public domain. And thus, we have privacy and protection in terms of our trading data and value creation. The Merit's digital currency will also self-administrate and do so with full disclosure. This system will have an administration team that accrues value from the system by operating the system for a fee. No value is extracted from members, and there is full transparency on the operation policies and accounting methods, where members each have the opportunity to participate with feedback, concerns, ideas and strategies in which to improve and develop the system so that it better serves the members. And so there you have it. There you have the benefits and aims of this new currency, the Merit's digital currency. I have just shared with you a worthy solution of how we can create and exchange value. And so I, the overseer of the Grace Society, do hereby declare with the creative power inherent within and by our goodwill and intent that the Merit's digital currency is to be a system of value exchange that will facilitate peace and prosperity to all living men, women, boys and girls of our society, and we will see that it is done. The Merit's digital currency is for value creators that create real value, that offers credit advances that facilitates value creation, income multiplication, capital preservation, value and asset protection, compounded wealth, and secured inheritance for all that participate, where each living being achieves financial freedom and wealth within their lifetimes. And for all of those who do seek the haven of financial security, they will get that protection within our private society. The Merit digital currency will remove the stress, the worry, the envy, the begging, the borrowing, the greed, the lacks, and all of the other concerns and afflictions that we have associated to money. With the Merit digital currency, there will be no fraud, no crimes, no unemployment, no debt servitude, no destitution, and no poverty. Nobody goes without because everybody goes with. There will be plenty for everyone and everyone with plenty. Thus, all the members of the Merits digital currency can live abundant, free, easy and joyous lives with the ease and means to do so, so they can truly celebrate this gift of life. And so I now give you an open invitation to join us, to join the Grace Society and become part of the mutual benefit of this initiative. I also encourage you to look into the other key humanitarian and environmental projects that we are working on. The permaculture systems of our San Trimo estates, the new communities that we call the Naturimo habitats, which are projects that honour and exalt life. Because the mission of the Grace Society is to form an alliance with good people, with pure hearts, with a love for life and a passion for all of life, so that together we can all create a new earth paradigm that benefits everybody. And so now I thank you. I thank you for being a part of this presentation. And should you feel inspired to know more or indeed become a significant part of this, our mission, should you wish to become a member of the Grace Society, then it would be a privilege and honour for me to meet you. Until then, my deepest respect to you and yours.